WWE is pushing for a major name to return at the Royal Rumble. CM Punk has blasted the very, very concept of Wrestler's Court. And a released WWE team are reuniting at a top indie show. More on that in a little bit. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm not too bad. How are you?
I'm good, I'm very well, thank you.
Are you excited for the Royal Rumble?
I actually am this year because more than any other year, it feels very uncertain as to who could win. The possibilities are endless at the moment.
Yes, I would agree with that. And on top of this new story that's been breaking recently, that could throw an extra little wrench into the works as well, because Fightful is reporting that WWE have been pushing to get Ronda Rousey on this year's Royal Rumble pay-per-view, and Brian Alvarez on Wrestling Observer Live later confirmed that she's set to be at the Royal Rumble as well. So WWE pushing hard for this. It's also seemingly implied there by Brian Alvarez that she's accepted, although Fightful didn't mention that, so maybe that's still a bit uncertain or maybe a little bit up in the air. Meltzer also has added, regarding the Ronda Rousey story, she's definitely on the books for WrestleMania, and being in the Rumble, of course, would set that up. Now, she's not wrestled since WrestleMania 35. Could you see, my question to you, Andrew, could you see Ronda Rousey winning the Royal Rumble match?
Now, you see, myself and Ross recorded a tier list yesterday, and both of us were like, do you know what? We don't think Ronda Rousey's going to turn up in the Royal Rumble.
Oh, no.
I know already, but we did say that if she entered the Royal Rumble, we can very much see her winning and then going on to the main event to challenge Becky Lynch or obviously Charlotte Flair, or maybe have that triple threat match once again for both belts, who knows, because that's how she obviously lost the belts in the first place at WrestleMania. I could very well see that happening. One thing though is I hope that if Asuka also comes back during the Royal Rumble, that might once again, as we know when Asuka won the Rumble in 2018, Ronda Rousey kind of overshadowed it almost by coming out and pointing at the sign. I don't want that to happen again, unfortunately. If that does happen and Asuka does come back. But you know what? Like, Ronda, for the short run that she had, I thought she was incredible. As I think a lot of people might have done as well. I thought she was really good and handles herself well as a champion. So, yeah, I can see her winning this and going on to WrestleMania. What about you?
I think so as well. I was thinking, just because there was a lack of obvious front runners. I mean, you could say Charlotte Flair, but I think her entrance into the match as champion is being set up more for somebody like Lita maybe, or someone to eliminate her and thereby enrage her, and then that'll set up the feud for WrestleMania. I think someone else is going to win, and up until this point, I was thinking like it's going to be a returning superstar, like maybe Asuka, as you said, maybe Bayley if she's back in time. But Ronda's my new favourite to win the match, I think. She's my new pick because this story's exciting. She's been away for long enough that she's going to feel... I mean, her style in the ring already was fresh and exciting, but I think it's going to feel even more so now. So, and it'll be a boost because of her mainstream, name value as well. So I think it's a very exciting time. Hopefully she says yes, and we'll wait and see what happens there. But new participants have also been announced, or in some cases announced themselves, for both men's and women's Royal Rumble matches. Last night it was announced that, a whole host will enter the men's Royal Rumble. Okay, so Omos, Randy Orton, Riddle, Chad Gable, Otis, Dolph Ziggler, and that other dirty dog, Robert Roode, will be entrants in the men's Rumble. That has added up to 22 wrestlers now confirmed, with 8 spots still left open in the match. On the women's side of things, slightly less active because WWE have already announced a whole host of names that are going to be returning for the Royal Rumble, which I was quite sad about. I think it spoiled it a little bit, but 21 of the 30 possible entrants have been announced for that one as well. So there's still, a healthy number of potential surprises in both matches, but there is, of course, still an episode of SmackDown to go.
There is.
More could announce themselves, but I was about to say, I'm quite excited for this Royal Rumble. Every Rumble.
Everybody's excited for every Rumble. Yeah,
of course. But do any of those new names catch your eye? There's one that catches mine.
The what? Big Omos? Is that the one that's catching your eye? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to take a whole ring of people to get him out, isn't it?
How is anyone going to eliminate him from the Royal Rumble match?
We will find out this Sunday/Saturday.
Other people who could be... I mean, Ziggler... He's good. He's good in these situations because he does his Shawn Michaels thing where he like nearly gets eliminated several times. But it starts to like distract me almost. So I know that Ziggler's kind of taking the mickey sometimes when he does it. And another quirk of Ziggler's that I really enjoy is how he'd always get himself onto the Survivor Series team for SmackDown and would always wear that blue baseball cap that he would only ever wear once a year. I don't know why. But,
it's like Christmas.
Yeah.
He brings it out once a year.
He does. I think that Riddle and Orton could be interesting. Could there be tension between... Because there's often, tension between partners. We've seen the Mysterios bickering a bit as well and dumping one another over the top. Well, yeah. Ray's been getting the better of Dom, really. So there's quite a lot of possibilities there, I think, with storylines that could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to see them break up Randy and Riddle so soon. But again, it's the Royal Rumble and anything goes, doesn't it? The sort of the team aspects of Royal Rumble goes out of the window to try and solidify yourself for that main event at WrestleMania.
Do you remember when Matt and Jeff Hardy were like two of the first three entrants?
Yeah, and they just went at it. They were like, let's go for it.
I was fuming. Why not just wait? Why don't you just wait, lads? And
it's
also, Demolition did the same. Just wait until the next person.
They're like your brothers, though. You're like, we both want to be in the main event at WrestleMania. Let's just go for it. Let's see what's going on. I'll support you throughout. If you win, you support me if I win, and it can just be a nice time for everybody, can't it? Wrestling.
Start of the match. I loved it when CM Punk did the strategy in 2011 with the Nexus because it was like he'd actually watched wrestling before. Speaking of CM Punk, he tweeted Adam Page asking if he could borrow some chaps. A fan replied warning Punk that he could end up in wrestler's court for gimmick theft. And then Punk slammed the very concept of Wrestler's Court, saying Wrestler's Court was the most insecure, small dick energy, average white man embarrassment to the wrestling business S-word of all time. Wow. So Punk, not a fan there of Wrestler's Court?
Not a fan. I think we've heard a lot of stories, petty stories almost as well, about sort of... new people in the industry coming into the locker room. One that comes to mind, Miz's chicken story, where he ate some fried chicken in the locker room. Some crumbs got on Chris Benoit's bag, and he was banned from the locker room for a very, very long time. Another one is, I think, the Hardys won the tag team titles, and Michael Hayes was like, you should sit on first class in this flight. Little did the Hardys know those seats were for Kane, and even though Kane was okay with it, Kane was like, you are allowed to sit in those seats, they still got called up to Wrestler's Court and had to pay for Kane's dinner. And it's like, what? Why? I mean, Wrestler's Court obviously was very much the people that had been around for a long time in the higher position doing these things, the Undertaker and JBL and everyone. And it just seems like a way to exploit wrestlers to get free food and free drinks.
Yeah, the Hardys had to buy whiskey, or Edge and Christian maybe had to buy whiskey for Taker for a bit or something.
Edge and Christian got, I think it was a writer, a limited edition Flash figure of Flash from DC. And apparently people saw that as them buying off, trying to get themselves a push. Right. So they bought The Undertaker, I think, a Harley Davidson coffee table book or something like that. And Taker was like, yeah, you're fine. You can go. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, it's odd. It's very odd. There was a game on the PS2 that I had when I was a kid. I can't quite remember the name, but you were like a World War II prisoner of war. Was it just called Prisoner of War, maybe?
It could have been.
And you were sneaking around the barracks at night, doing little deals, digging tunnels and stuff. But if you got caught, you could just pay off the guard with like coffee and cigarettes and stuff. And it was that's what Wrestler's Court sounds like.
It does.
I think that, and shout me out in the comments if you remember that game, because my word, what a blast from the past that was. But I think that you're right, Wrestler's Court on the surface sounds like, oh well, it's just fun, it's just backstage camaraderie, it's just a way of keeping maybe newer people in line who aren't respecting the traditions of wrestling. But really, as we've heard in the past many times, it crosses over so quickly into just the older, more experienced names, taking advantage of the younger or less experienced names. So yeah, I think I agree with CM Punk on that. So fair enough. And finally, it released a previously released WWE tag team are reuniting at a top indie show at the Pro Wrestling Revolver show Swerve's House. It's going to be Steve Macklin, formerly known, of course, as Steve Cutler, and Wesley Blake, the Forgotten Sons, Andrew. They'll be reuniting for the first time since departing WWE and will compete under the new team name Prisoners of Society, but no opponent is yet announced. It's quite exciting.
It is quite exciting because they weren't ever really given a chance. Obviously, in SmackDown, things got called up. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff surrounding Jackson Riker as well, and it seemed as though that impacted them both on TV too. But if you look back, got you. Confirmed. No, I think it's it's quite ironic that they're called the Forgotten Sons and they got forgotten about, because that team was genuinely very good. If you go back and watch like the Dusty Classic and the stuff that they had together with Imperium, they really pulled everything out of the bag. And what might have seemed like to a lot of people a boring tag team, that might have been in part because they weren't really allowed to do too much on TV. But when they got the chance, they always pulled it out of the bag. And I'm really happy to see them both teaming together outside of WWE and continuing this tag team as well, because I think there's a lot of exciting things in their future.
I think so too. I was watching Impact Hard to Kill pay-per-view, and the Steve Macklin was being used as like the destroyer of the X Division, and he had a really good match for the title but lost. It was really exciting. He did this spot I'd never seen before where like he hung his opponent, I think it was Trey Miguel, upside down and then speared him in half, like in the Tree of Woe position. It was awesome.
Looks brutal, that.
Have you seen it? Yeah,
it looks amazing.
I was messaging the group chat being like, guys, this Steve Macklin lad, I don't know who he is, but he's pretty good. And then Aiden was just like, Jack, it's Steve Cutler from WWE. I was like, oh!
Whoa! Mind blown.
The Forgotten Son? Oh dear. So yes, good luck to them at Pro Wrestling Revolver's Swerve's House. We'll see how they do, and we'll see who their opponents are as well in due course. But thank you very much for watching this news video, everybody. Leave your thoughts and opinions in that comment section down below, and stay tuned to this very YouTube channel because there'll be more news coming up later on. This has been Andrew, I've been Jack. Have a lovely day, and we'll see you very soon.